Let me ask you something. When was the last time a woman looked at you like you were the most interesting man in the room? Not because of what you were wearing, not because of your car, your job, or how much money was in your bank account, but because of something you said, something that hit differently, something she couldn't quite explain but couldn't stop thinking about. If you can't remember that moment, or if it's been a while, then stay with me. Because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes is going to completely change the way you communicate with women. And honestly, it might change the way you see yourself. I've spent years studying human communication. Thousands of interactions, patterns, psychology, behavioral science. And after all of that research, after all of those conversations and observations, I kept coming back to the same conclusion. The men who are most attractive to women aren't the tallest guys in the room. They aren't the best looking. They aren't driving the flashiest cars. The men who consistently draw women in, who create real emotional connection, who leave a lasting impression, those men have mastered one thing. Just one. Direct emotional communication. And I know what you might be thinking. I communicate fine, I talk to women all the time. But here's the difference. There's a gap between talking and actually connecting. Most men fill that gap with noise. Small talk, trying to be funny, trying not to say the wrong thing, tiptoeing around what they actually feel. And women notice. Trust me, they notice. The female brain is extraordinarily sensitive to emotional signals. And when a man is hedging, when he's performing, when he's trying to manage her reaction instead of just being real, she feels it. She might not be able to name it, but she pulls back. The spark doesn't ignite. So what do the men who do ignite that spark do differently? It comes down to two phrases. Just two. And before you roll your eyes and think this is going to be some cheesy script or some manipulative pickup technique, hear me out, because this isn't about tricks. This is about psychology. This is about understanding how the human brain processes emotion and using that knowledge to show up more authentically, more powerfully, and more attractively in every interaction. The first phrase is this: I want. 2 words. Simple. Almost too simple. But the effect they have when used with genuine confidence is remarkable. Let me explain why. When a man says I want directly and clearly, something shifts. In him and in her. In him, he's forced to own his desires. He can't hide behind vague suggestions. He can't drop hints and hope she picks them up. He has to take a position. And that act of taking a position, that willingness to be clear about what he's after, is one of the most powerful signals of masculine confidence a man can send. Think about the contrast. How many times have you heard a man say something like, I mean, maybe we could hang out sometime if you're not busy, no pressure, just whenever. What does that communicate? Uncertainty, fear of rejection, an almost desperate attempt to pre-manage disappointment by not fully committing to the ask. And look, I get it. Rejection stings. Nobody wants to put themselves out there and get shut down. But here's the cruel irony. That careful hedge everything approach actually makes rejection more likely, not less. Because what she hears in that kind of language is a man who doesn't really believe he's worth saying yes to. Now compare that to a man who looks her in the eyes and says, I want to take you to dinner on Saturday. I know this incredible place. I think you'd love it. Feel the difference. That man isn't begging. He isn't testing the waters. He's leading. He's creating an experience before the experience even begins. He's saying, without saying it out loud, I know what I want, I believe I'm worth your time, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. That energy is magnetic. And here's the science behind why. When a man communicates with that kind of directness and confidence, he triggers what psychologists call sexual polarity. The idea is that attraction between two people is often generated by a clear masculine and feminine dynamic. When a man takes initiative, when he expresses desire without apology, he activates the complementary response in a woman. She doesn't have to wonder what he wants. She doesn't have to carry the weight of the decision. She can simply respond. And for many women, that feeling of being pursued by someone who is genuinely confident and clear about his intentions is deeply, deeply attractive. But here's where a lot of men stop. They learn to be more direct. They start saying what they want. And for a while it works better. But eventually something feels off. Women might feel desired but not truly seen. And that's where the second phrase comes in. I appreciate. Now we're getting into the real magic. Because if I want is what gets her attention, I appreciate is what keeps it. Let me explain the psychology here. When a man only expresses what he wants, he can come across as self-centered. Like the interaction is just about getting something from her. And even if it's not intentional, that energy creates a subtle imbalance. She starts to feel like an object of desire rather than a person being genuinely valued. But when you combine I want with I appreciate, everything changes. You're no longer just expressing desire. You're expressing recognition. You're telling her not just that you're attracted to her, but that you actually see her, that you've paid attention, that something specific about who she is has moved you enough to name it out loud. Here's a real example. Imagine you've just spent the evening with a woman you're genuinely interested in. The conversation flowed, there was laughter, moments of depth, and as the night is ending, most men would either go silent, not wanting to seem too eager, or overdo it with something generic like, I had a great time. But what if instead you looked at her and said, I want to do this again. I really appreciate the way your mind works. You have this way of seeing things that I don't come across very often. Do you feel how different that lands? You're not just saying you had fun, you're telling her something specific about herself that impressed you. You're communicating that you weren't just physically present, you were emotionally and intellectually engaged. And that combination of desire and genuine appreciation is, for most women, completely irresistible. Why? Because most men don't do this. Most men compliment appearance. You look beautiful. You have an amazing smile. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those things are fine to say, but they're also predictable. They're surface level. When you go deeper, when you appreciate something about her character, her intelligence, her humor, her energy, you're doing something rare. You're saying, I see the real you, and I value what I see. And that, my friend, creates what we call emotional anchoring. She associates being around you with feeling truly seen and valued. And that feeling, it brings people back again and again. Now, I need to talk about something that most guides on this topic completely skip over. Because you could memorize everything I just said. You could practice these phrases in the mirror every night, and they still might not work. Why? Because of congruence. Congruence is the alignment between what you're saying, how you're saying it, and what your body is doing while you say it. It's the difference between words that land and words that fall flat. And this is critical because the female brain, and honestly the human brain in general, is a remarkably sophisticated lie detector when it comes to emotional incongruence. Let me paint you a picture. A man walks up to a woman. His shoulders are slightly hunched. He's avoiding full eye contact. His voice goes up at the end of the sentence like he's asking a question rather than making a statement. And he says, I want to take you out. What does she feel? Not confidence, not attraction. She feels the gap between what he's saying and what his body is screaming. And that gap creates doubt. It makes her wonder if this man actually believes what he's saying. And now picture a different man. Shoulders back, chest open, weight evenly distributed. He makes eye contact without staring her down, just steady, present contact. He speaks at a deliberate pace, not rushing, not stumbling. And he says the exact same words, I want to take you out. Completely different experience. The words are identical. The effect is worlds apart. So when you practice these two phrases, don't just practice the words, practice the posture, practice the eye contact. Practice slowing your speech down slightly, especially when you're saying something that matters. That slight slowdown signals sincerity. It says, I'm not just talking, I mean this. And when you say, I appreciate, take a breath before it. Let there be a half-second pause. That pause creates weight. It tells her something meaningful is coming. Your voice, your body, your presence, these are not afterthoughts. They are the delivery system for everything you want to communicate. The words are the message, but your presence is the signal that makes the message believable. And let's talk about timing, because this is the piece that separates the men who understand this conceptually from the men who actually live it. You are not going to walk around saying, I want and I appreciate in every conversation like a script. That would be strange. That would actually undermine everything I've just explained, because it would destroy the authenticity that makes these phrases powerful in the first place. These phrases work because they're used in the right moments, strategic moments, moments of genuine intent, moments where you actually want to establish something real. For example, at the end of a first date that went well, or in the middle of a conversation when she says something that genuinely impresses you, or at a turning point in a relationship when you want to make your feelings clear without being performative about it. The goal is not to use a technique. The goal is to become the kind of man who naturally expresses himself with clarity and depth. And the reason I'm teaching you these specific phrases as a starting point is that they give you a structure to work from while you're building that capacity. They train your brain to move away from hedging, from vagueness, from the kind of passive communication that keeps so many men stuck in the friend zone or in relationships without real spark. Because here's the truth. Women don't fall for men who are perfect. They fall for men who are present, men who are honest about what they feel, men who have the courage to say, "This is what I want," and the emotional intelligence to say, "This is what I value in you." That combination of strength and sensitivity, of desire and appreciation, is what creates the kind of connection that women don't just enjoy but genuinely can't stop thinking about. I want you to try something this week, just once. In a conversation with a woman you're interested in, instead of hinting, instead of being vague, instead of hoping she picks up on what you're feeling, use one of these phrases. Be direct, be genuine, say what you actually mean, and pay attention to what shifts. Not just in her response, but in how you feel when you say it. Because here's what most men discover when they start communicating this way. It's not just more attractive to women. It's more satisfying for them. There's something deeply freeing about saying what you actually mean without apology, about taking up the space you deserve to take up, about letting someone know clearly and genuinely that you see them, that you want them, that you appreciate who they are. That freedom, that confidence, that authenticity. That's what attraction is really built on. Not tricks, not lines, not some formula you found on the internet, but a version of yourself that knows what he wants, isn't afraid to say it, and has the depth to genuinely appreciate the person in front of him. That man is irresistible, and you have everything you need to become him.